So
Okay.
the other day I played chess on
Mhm.
against Saxon on a Discord,
Oh, yeah.
and we
Is he
had
any
like
good?
spectators. He's a beginner. we
Okay, fair enough.
we like I'm a beginner too, but I'm less of a beginner. So, but we had spectators, and it was so funny because they were all watching his screen. And dude, it would be funny to have for us to play a game and there to be like someone spectating in real time.
Mm.
It's just
Who
funny.
was spectating? Randomers?
No,
or...
Sean and Calvin. They were just laughing as we were doing stuff. It was funny. It was a
that's
lot of
funny.
fun. Yeah, I'm quite looking forward to our next chess match.
Well, we can do that for the next episode if you want.
Yeah, the
I
next
think
episode.
we've done a couple of we've done a couple of talky ones. So I feel like another Porn Stars episode would be quite fun.
Yeah, I agree, man. Okay.
So how's your week been anyway, mate?
Yeah, all good. I've got a new job now, so
Awesome.
I've
It's all
finished
locked and
my
loaded now.
warehouse era. So yeah, how about you?
Yeah, good. Busy. Literally just working. Nothing super exciting.
Mate,
to talk
you've been
about, really.
hard
just,
at work.
grinding the Chinese.
I text you and
Honestly,
yeah,
It takes a lot out of me, to be honest, the work. Like, it's right on the limit of, like, burnout, usually some weeks, so...
yeah,
But one more year and I'm out of here, so...
yeah. You're nearly there, and you've been out drinking last night too. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
That was fun.
blow off
So
some
feeling
steam.
all right today.
Good man.
Had some coffee, and I'm good. So, yeah, boss.
All right. Today, I would quite like to talk about, well, two things. Testing product ideas. I'd almost see this as like a little bit of a workshop with each other on testing product ideas because it's so critical and I see so many people mess it up. I've messed it up a lot, for sure. And like the other day, one of my friends sent me like a survey he's sending out for his like business idea. And there was a lot to improve, let's say. It was good in a lot of ways, but there were a few questions where I was like, you need to remove them. So, yeah.
What was the idea?
It's kind of like he really needs to specify with me more about the idea. We've not really spoken about it much, but it's kind of like an agency, like just temp agents, basically setting up his own temp agents.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
But we can go into detail on what I thought about his survey in a bit. But yeah, so that's the first thing I want to talk about, and the other thing I want to talk about is a real life business problem that I'm dealing with at the moment with my little office job, which is one of the big problems is the company's moving quite slowly. Like, it takes a long time for decisions to be made, and it just feels quite slow. And my senior manager's job this quarter is to make it go faster. And she keeps coming and asking me, and we're talking about it a lot. And I just really wanted to talk with you about how do you make a company decisive and move quickly, which is a huge problem, right? So...
definitely, especially a big company, right? I mean, I know it's not enormous, this company, but it's bigger than anything we could imagine doing. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
well,
it's
you
not,
more than me, but
it's not the biggest company ever, but it's not tiny either. Yeah, so yeah, we'll get into that though. I'm pretty excited to get into it because there's lots to talk about. Excuse me. Right. So yesterday I had an idea while I was doing my final shift at the birdseed factory.
oh, really? So that was it. That is fully it now.
Yeah,
You're never
I'm
going
done.
back.
Yeah, I'm
Cool.
no longer a warehouse employee. But yeah, anyway, my idea. So I was speaking with my girlfriend about getting a photo album because I quite like the idea of having a photo album. I really don't like having tens of thousands of photos on my camera roll on my phone because I never go back and really look through them. If I have a photo album, I want to have maybe like, say, that trip I did in Albania, I have like 15 photos for the whole trip. Like, I don't need any more than that. Even that sounds like quite a lot to me. And the photos, I want them to have people in. I want them to be good memories. I don't want it to just be like a photo of a mountain that I don't remember where it was or anything about it, really. So, then my girlfriend said that in her parents' house, they have annual photo albums and they take up loads of space and no one ever looks at them, is what she said. And I was like, that sounds kind of shit too. Like, I don't want that. Like, imagine that taking up loads of space on the bookshelf, these nice binders that nobody ever looks at. And also they're a set size and, maybe you don't fill it that year and it's loads of empty space, it's all messy and whatnot. So I just had this idea. what if you made a physical binder that was digital, and then it's one binder for every year, and it's just got like a contents page on the front. And I don't know how well this would work, but there's like Kindle screens that aren't like a phone screen; they're more like a matte screen. It'd be like one of those.
Yeah.
I kind of envisage like, the start of a film. Sometimes they like flip pages of the book, and it opens up. There's like real-time sketch animation of like a scene. Imagine that, but it's like your family photos, and you flip through it, and you go, "Oh, I'm bored of 2017. Let's go to 2012," and then you press that on the contents, and then flip the page, and it's got that. So it was just an idea.
It reminds me of I've seen people have like it looks just like a photo frame, but it's actually a digital screen, and they'll have it like in their living room, and it changes all the time. That kind of thing.
One of my buddies has a business doing exactly that. He sells those frames.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty cool.
So with this idea, you'd say it was but it would look kind of like an iPad, but just with like a shittier screen, basically. And but how is it different to the kind of the photo frame idea?
Well, what I imagine is a actual binder, like some fancy leather bound binder, and you open it up. And by the way, I haven't really thought enough about this idea to really understand its benefits.
That's what we're
It'll
doing
have
now.
Many
buddy.
problems, but yeah, imagine it's a leather binder, and then it's got some kind of storage unit in it, like a very thin SSD or something in the back, some solid state storage, and then when you say a shittier screen, I wouldn't want it to be a shit screen, just not one that's like really tiring for the eyes to look at. I don't know. You know how you could flip through photo albums and your eyes aren't going to get strained, but if you stare at an iPad, they will. So it's kind of like, how can you tackle that? And then literally just a 2-page binder. Inside of it, there's the first page is the contents page where you click what you want, and then the second page is like 2 screens. One has, and I don't know how you can flick through. Imagine you're flicking through page by page just by hitting a button or something, and it flicks through, and then it shows you an image with a caption, and maybe the caption says where it is and who's in it or something like that. And then so that's page 1 and page 2, and then you flick it. Well, actually no, that'd be page 2 and page 3. Page 1 is the contents page, right? And then but obviously there's so many things I haven't thought of, like it needs a battery, so you have to charge your photo album, which kind of seems weird.
A little bit,
and
if it breaks, I mean, you probably won't lose the photos, right? They'll be backed up somewhere, but
well, actually,
I don't know. One of the sorry, go on.
I think you're going to get on to exactly what, maybe not exactly what I was just about to say, which is you could, like, a big worry about photos is losing them, and you can lose physical photos really easily, right? All it takes is a house fire, and you can lose digital photos, like all it takes is dropping your phone in a lake, and they're gone. But if they're backed up to some kind of cloud, then they're safe, right? As long as the cloud is there. But assume that the cloud is going to be there. It's probably the longest form your photos are going to survive for. But the problem with that is if you store it on the cloud, someone has to run that server, someone has to pay to run that server. So basically you're looking at a subscription cost for your photo albums, which seems kind of dumb as well. But I could see it being like an insurance policy. So everyone has it stored on the photo binder, and if they don't want to pay for the subscription, then they don't get the service of having it backed up on the thing, right? But if they do, then they pay the subscription and it's backed up on the cloud. So yeah, is that what you were going to go into?
I mean, yeah, pretty much. And I mean, what my family do is we have all the photos in photo albums on the cloud, but then my mum regularly makes she doesn't get the ones like you mentioned where you print off all the photos and slot them into like slots inside of a binded book, but she gets like a bespoke one where the photos are actually printed onto the pages, if that makes sense. Like she pays
that's cool.
for a company to make one.
Yeah.
And she just selects all the photos and then it arrives and they're actually printed on the pages. So you don't get the clutter of it. Like they're quite small. And she just does them for trips or like for holidays for Christmas or something.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think physical photos are still nice to have, to be honest.
Absolutely.
Because
that's a good solution. I think a lot of people would choose that over a digital one, probably.
Maybe. I don't know. It might do well. I think the frame idea, the one that you said your mate does, where you just have basically like It reminds in like Harry Potter when the paintings move. It's a bit like that, but it's just a digital
Yeah,
photo that changes all the time.
it's pretty cool.
Um,
As
I
screens
think-
get
yeah,
better,
I don't know.
it'll get a lot better.
Yeah, I like the idea of in the future if they could have really thin screens, like bendy screens, then you could have pages. Like it'll be like page thin, but it would still be like a.
That's
you know
when
what I
this
mean?
idea would be awesome. And also,
Yeah.
the other key thing that I think we're overlooking is there are no photo albums right now with videos in. Like the multimedia is limited to photos. It's like,
True.
you could have like imagine it would be like a TikTok book with
Where
family
you could just
memories.
scroll through reels of your family.
Yeah,
That's what our generation's gonna need at some point.
probably. Yeah, the photos won't be stimulating enough. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a solution that is not digital, but is just a smarter way of doing photo albums, if that makes sense. Because I agree, like, you get loads of clutter.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a better way to sort them.
Well, I think that
like
the main problem I was looking at is just mobile phones having so many photos, and it's just it's like a curse. Like, is it a blessing or is it a curse being able to have so many photos? Like, you can take as many as you want, pretty much, and it's just a mess, and I never look at them anymore. So, yeah,
I bet there's a good AI solution out there at the moment for camera rolls. Like, I bet Apple could, or whoever, whichever phone company we're talking about here, whether it's Android or iOS. But I bet there's a better way of doing it, like the smart sorting of photos.
yeah,
And
I imagine so. That could probably solve the
knowing
whole
which
problem.
knowing which photos are crap, and maybe not deleting them but archiving them somewhere, like off your phone, and only keeping. You know how you can favorite photos on your camera roll? Like, it would be cool if they could figure out which ones you would favorite based on your activity, or based on some AI knowledge of what makes a good photo. If that makes sense.
It's like a predictive favorite.
And it could like tell which photos you looked hot in. Like, it could like objectively tell you what your hottest photo was. Be like, we recommend you save these ones because you look good in them.
Yeah, that's a pretty good idea. That's a pretty good idea, Sam. I like that.
It could build your Tinder profile for you.
To be fair, I think that's a big pain point. Lots of people can't be asked to build the profile. They just want to get to swiping.
Oh yeah.
So,
Well, I'm single again, and I was like, do I finally do online dating? I was like,
nah.
I'm not doing that. Yeah, I'm not doing that. And part of it is like, I never take photos of myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, ever. Like, maybe a selfie
the
with
last
someone if
selfie.
I'm somewhere cool, but like basically never.
I've never like stood and taken selfies in the mirror. Like, at least not in the last like 10 years.
Oh god, no.
Yeah, it's been...
Yeah, I might have done that when I was about 13, but I've not done it since. Yeah,
But
Jesus.
I think we're highlighting a really key thing that I learnt from the ex-CEO of Netflix, which is every idea you come up with is a bad idea, so you must not get attached to them. So if you come up with a cool business idea like, digital binders, digital photo albums, say, I can sit there and get really excited about it and come up with loads of reasons why it's a fucking great idea. But if you just sit there and try and identify some of the problems, like, the storage, and like there are some other solutions that already exist, you start to see the problems with your great idea. Now, this is not a reason to just kick it away and never like think about it again. But it's just when you start out with an idea, it is more than likely, like almost 100%, it's going to be a bad idea and not be like executable, say. But you just have to like we have to work with each other if we're going to come up with ideas. You have to like bounce off each other and like, maybe this is a better way of looking at. And now we've kind of identified a bit more of the problem, which is, there's so many photos, what do we do with them? And physical is a bit clunky, and it's limited to static images. What about video and stuff like that? So there's definitely a solution here that doesn't exist right now. And my digital photo binder album thing is probably not the solution, but like, it's an idea.
Sure.
So,
yeah, and you just have to keep riffing, and you have to keep telling each other that the other person's idea was shit, and
well, you have to do it gracefully.
You've got to put it through the rinser.
You put it through the rinser, but you don't do it in a way that is like you never come up with any ideas. Because I love what Hormozy says about it. The people who say no to every business idea are 100%. What is it? 99% right, but 100% wrong is what he said. You heard that?
I have heard something similar,
It's like
but I get the idea.
he
yeah.
uses the analogy of like if you keep bringing girls home, your parents will be like, this isn't going to be your wife, and like they'll be right every single time until they're not.
Except one.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So you kind of have to keep riffing, but then you have to work with each other and realize that every idea has problems, right? And then the other key thing, which is what I really want to get to today, is testing the ideas. Like actually getting, how do
Sure.
you test them? Do you remember when I was talking to you before about the business I'm currently working on, which is still under wraps, about testing it? And you were like, can you test it on the phone? Can you test it this way? And I was like, fuck yeah, Sam, you're really getting to the kind of meat
MVP.
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not even the MVP.
Well,
you can
I-
test ideas before you have an MVP.
Sure. It's like a pre-MVP MVP.
Exactly. It's like a MMVP.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm. So kind of the key idea is that you are not your customer. So that's why you have to test. Like you don't know shit about what the customer wants.
And if you can generate a bunch of interest in an idea, like yeah, just you want to not put the cart before the horse, basically, and flesh out an idea without actually knowing if there's any interest in it. And if you can get people interested, like a big one I think is being able to do stuff manually. Like if you think there's a market for selling a certain thing, if you can just go up to people and sell it yourself and be like, hey, look, I will do, I don't know, what would an example, like I can do your nutrition for you. And you have an idea about how, you can help someone meal prep or something, or plan their nutrition. If you can just do that over the phone by texting someone and saying, eat more of this, eat less of this, do more of that, whatever it might be, and they love it, then you know that you can turn it into a software product. But if you just assume you have some like method to help people with nutrition and spend time and money making the software, and then you find out that no one's interested in your method, then you've just wasted a whole load of time and money.
Yeah, I think even some really big corporations have been guilty of developing things without ever having tested that people want them. It's literally, this is like entrepreneurship 101. This is like, it's not even entrepreneurship, it's like inventing 101. If you create something without ever testing it, I mean, imagine I go and build this digital binder right now. That'd be kind of stupid. I've not tested it. There could be no one that wants it.
It would be very stupid.
Yeah, unless I just build it for myself, just to have it. But yeah, it wouldn't be the smartest thing ever. And what you were just getting to there is what I've written down here as do the product. I mean, it depends if you've got, I guess, do the service as well, if you're building a service. But can you try and literally do the product? Like actually do for the customer whatever the value is of your product and see if they like it. So what would that be in this case?
Even if it takes weeks
yeah,
and months to do it for one person, at least if they love it, okay, if I can get this down from taking a month per customer to like 15 minutes through building software.
some kind of software, yeah.
Some kind of factory in China that's going to build it for me, blah, 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 then, that's when you make tons of money, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, man. This is a key part of not only product development, but just building a business. Yeah.
So can you this going back to your secret business, can you test it? Like how are you
man,
planning
I've
on
been
testing
coming
it?
up with loads of different testing ideas. I mean, this is actually kind of what I'm basing today's conversation on, the tests that I've run on it with this other product. So, like, doing
What
the
can you
product
tell
is
us?
something I've done. I ain't telling you shit, brother. I'll show you.
Okay, well,
I'm getting there. Just give me some time.
yeah. No, I don't need to know business specifics, but has it been caught? Like, who have you reached out to? How have you done the product? Is it over the phone?
Yeah, I've done
like-
it for, well, this sounds a bit silly, but I've done it for myself in the sense of as a proof of concept that it actually works, if you see what I mean, rather than like,
Yeah.
so in this case, this would be like building the binder. Maybe not building the binder because it really didn't take that long to prove the concept. I wouldn't build the binder; it's too long. But say you could build the binder
Is it a
in a
service
day.
or is it a product?
Service. It's a
Mhm.
web application service. So, I have
This is another thing I was going to say is that, and this is something Hormozy said, is like, services are actually better, especially for first-time entrepreneurs, because products have so much overhead, and they're so much more difficult, right? And you're going to have to pay so much more per sale than you will for some software which is free to, disseminate.
Yeah. Services are products are very expensive. Like, it's manufacturing. This is when I was looking at building remote control cars. Yeah, it is expensive to just make the tooling. You're looking at like tens of thousands just to make the tooling for a part of the car. It's like, yeah, and then to get it produced in China, and you have to then start negotiating with different manufacturers and things. I have a friend who's making ski helmets, and she's facing a lot of these problems. Luckily, her co-founder is Chinese, so he's helping her a lot. They went to China to go and do it. But yeah, man, if I ever need manufacturing, I'm getting you, because you are coming with me to China.
Yeah, well, mate, I will do that. That is the kind of thing I really want my Chinese to be able to enable me to do.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like, I think that's, a lot of people are like, oh, you're going to go into translation. I'm like, no. Like, I want to be in the people business.
Negotiate. Dude, we're going to do it. It's going to happen. One of these stupid ideas that we come up with about digital binders or some bullshit will actually be, like, not stupid. And we'll be like, oh, shit, we need to do this.
Lead to a holiday in China.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, another idea of testing products is selling something that doesn't exist just to count the clicks, just to see how much traction you get. So you pretend that it exists on your website. So you host a website, and then you click here to purchase my ski helmet, say, for example, or click here to buy the binder. And then you click on it, and it just says, like, site failed or whatever. I don't know. Error 404.
Sure.
You might piss off a few people, but at the end of the day, you're getting... As long as you're gathering the data.
As long as it doesn't say site failed after they've paid, I think it's fine.
No, you don't even get them to pay.
Yeah, so, that's what I mean. Like,
oh, right.
Like, as long as you're not taking their money and being like, oops, then you're all right.
Yeah. No, we don't like scamming. None of that. That's not how you test ideas.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I like that idea, though. I really like that idea. And marketing it and being like, yeah, product's coming soon.
Yeah.
Enter your email and we'll put you on the list.
Click here for early access, or, click here for a 10% discount for, showing interest and whatnot.
I also think it's really good to give it away for, once you do have an MVP, you just give it away for free loads. And there's a few reasons for it, but a big one is referrals and word of mouth and all that good stuff. Because if, like, say your product, like when it's available, and you have an idea about a few people or a few companies who, is it B2B or B2C?
The one I'm working on at the moment?
Yeah.
B2C.
Okay. So you think of a few people that who might benefit from it, and you just give it to them for free. You get their feedback, because that's critical, right? That's about testing it. But also, if it's great, then you can get referrals from it, and you can get testimonials to put on your website or wherever, saying X number of people loved it. And then you start giving it away at a heavy discount, and then you just slowly, as you get lots of customers, you just slowly put up the rate until it's kind of where you want it to be. And hopefully by that point, you've got enough customers that if you put up the rate and you lose a few customers, you're still making more money.
Well, I don't want to give away too much detail, but I have a problem with my idea that I'm building at the moment, because I don't want to charge for it, because it's really not... It's one of these things that provides value, but not enough for you to want to pay, because I can't really describe it properly without giving it away. No, it is a good idea. It massively improves efficiency, but not many people are going to want to pay for the type of efficiency it's improving. So it all will become clear, but there's a way of making it work, which is through ad revenue. But I need the ad revenue to be higher than the cost of me hosting, and then I can do it. This is the business case.
That's the advantage of that, is that it will be quite easy to acquire new customers then if it's free.
Yeah, it'd be super easy.
It's easier to get 1,000 people using the service if it's free than if it's expensive. And once you've got 1,000 people using it, then you can probably generate some decent ad revenue.
So what makes we really need to talk about this, man, after I've done it. This is going to be horrible. It'll be good to listen back to maybe in the future.
Why don't you want to announce it now? Is it just too?
Because I want to do it first, mate. I want to do it.
Okay.
Do you want to hear
I
a
do get
brilliant
that.
quote that exactly
Yes.
encapsulates this? I'm reading Ryan Holiday's book at the moment about ego, and I've got it right in front of me. So he said that this is by Kierkegaard, actually, who's a philosopher. Mere gossip anticipates real talk, and to express what is still in thought weakens action by forestalling it. So basically, talking about shit that you haven't done yet reduces breakthroughs, insight, and action. Is kind of there's like a whole section of the book, and he's got research-based stuff about it. So it's just like mere gossip. It makes it feel like you're doing something when you're not, and then
Sure.
say it doesn't work out so well, you're like, oh, I tried really hard. You actually didn't. You just talked about it. So this is why I'm really trying not to talk
Sure.
about it. And then soon I will actually
mean-
start having things to show you, and I'll send it to you when I do.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, the other counter argument is that I can give you advice on it and tell you it's a good idea or a bad idea or whatever. But
As soon as I have enough
Fair enough.
actual physical shit to show you for you to give me advice, I'll send it over. But currently I don't. So
cool. And will it go on the podcast there and then, or will there be a period of time
Yeah, we
where
can do-
we both know? But
honestly, I think as long as I have like the first mover advantage in the sense of like nobody else, people are going to be too far behind to copy because I've developed enough of the logic on the back end of it, then I'd be fine to show it. But it's
fair
if some
enough.
if
I mean,
some
there's also the
smart
other
cookie,
fact that no one's listening to this right now.
yeah, there's that. But if some smart cookie did listen and I hadn't developed enough of it yet, and then they just made it in like a week because they know more than me, it would kind of piss me off a bit. So
Oh yeah, that would be really annoying.
yeah.
What is the biggest obstacle to overcome before it's ready? Like, what is the thing
My
where you're like,
coding
I
ability,
have
mate,
no
and
idea how to
time.
do that?
Yeah, so literally my coding ability. I do not know enough. I've got to learn TypeScript basically or JavaScript, and I've been learning other languages for my job, and it's kind of been priority.
Is this for the website, or is this for like the actual mechanisms behind the product?
Yeah, so part of the product requires a crawler, so I need to be able to code.
What's that?
You heard of scrapers? Web scrapers?
Yes. So
Yeah,
yes.
so web scrapers go and
those.
gather data. Crawlers go and interact with sites. It's like a bot that interacts with sites. So I need to
Gotcha.
be able
it
to
goes on
develop.
someone's website and
Yeah,
it can like automate someone's interactions with a website.
exactly. Yeah, and crawlers is, at least my understanding is those like captcha things. Are they is that how you say it? Capture.
Capture, I think.
Capture. Yeah, they are to catch crawlers because basically a crawler will move your mouse in a straight line directly to something, and lots of those bot tracking things will be like no human can move a mouse in a straight line. Like that's not how you move, and they'll do it like immediately, whereas a human will take a bit of time and stuff like that. At least I'm fairly sure that's how they work. I don't actually know.
I wonder how long before AI just completely
Probably
makes,
already
like,
has.
captures.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure AIs have in limited cases solved I am not a robot capture puzzles.
Yeah, I'm sure they can
like
do that already.
I'm sure they're intelligent enough to do that already.
Yeah. Probably. So another thing I wanted to mention then about testing product ideas is you have to be super clear on your assumptions about your customer when you make assumptions. Like you have to literally fucking write them down and then test the assumptions too. So like in the case of the digital binder thing, I'm assuming that the customers have these problems which are like clunky photo albums and too many photos. There's like two assumptions straight away off the bat that you have to test actually. And I'm sure
Sure.
there are many other assumptions that I can't think of right now. Yeah. It would be good to become
Yes.
absolute gods at testing ideas. This is how you become a successful business person. If you can...
I honestly think it's one of the most important skills. Like if you're like top 1% of 1% in the world at testing business ideas, I think like it's only a matter of time before you're a successful entrepreneur. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I 100% agree. And there aren't going to be many people practicing this. So if we practice it as a pair, like just the two of us practicing, you send me a cool business idea you've had, and then we both just write down as many test ideas as we can. we will slowly get better and better and better, and then we will become God, right?
Yeah, God itself.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, how else can we systematize it then? Because that's that's like, if we can have a process, like a step-by-step process that we follow, and we follow each step for each business idea. Like, what else needs to be in that process
Okay, well,
in order to become really good at this?
you might be able to make a process, but every business idea is different, and they all have different problems. So it might not be so easy. But probably you could have like a broad number of steps, which would be like, okay, identify assumptions, identify problems, and test them both. Do they actually exist? So like, I heard an example from the Netflix CEO guy about someone came up to him and said that she wants to start a company that lets people like trade clothes at uni. They like swap.
I heard this.
You heard
yeah,
this
I
one?
remember.
Yeah, so he was like, okay,
Yeah.
well, put a sign on your door. And then obviously you immediately are encountered with the problems of like, okay, what if it doesn't fit? You know, what if it's the wrong size? So you need some kind of sizing thing. And then what are the consequences if they get like they smoke and it smells of smoke, or they spill like curry on it or something?
Yeah, rip it or something.
Yeah. So, and you have all these problems. Like, what if they don't return it? And, you know, how much are people going to have to pay? And etc.
I remember in that example as well, she came up to him and said, like, should I drop out of uni to pursue this idea?
Yeah, no. Don't do
He
that.
was like, you literally, all you need is a piece of paper and a pen and write and put it on your door saying, who wants to trade clothes with me, right?
Yeah.
And if you can't get any traction from that whatsoever, then you've got to solve that problem before you think about dropping out of uni or something.
People love jumping the gun on. I am guilty of it too. I think less now than before because you start to understand. But yet, bruh, it's so easy to get carried away with your business ideas. In fact, it is pretty much ego. You're like, I think I know more than the customer does, and therefore, and even the customer doesn't know what they want. At the end of the day, you heard that Henry Ford quote? The one that's,
No.
if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Think about how terrible of an idea it would have sounded at the time. Like, what we're going to do is we're going to put some explosions in front of you in this like big metal block heavy thing, and it's going to pull you along. And that's going to be better than your horse.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly.
Like, yeah, it can't go off road
What
either.
we should do is, on our joint Notion page, we should have a section which is business ideas, and then we just add them there and check it regularly, and then we can just both work on each other's ideas on this Notion page. And even if the idea is shit, we can just archive it and just have like an idea graveyard section. Yeah. And we just move ideas there when we're done with it. And then maybe one day you go through the graveyard and you realise, I've actually thought of a new way of doing this.
Exactly.
And that ends up being a good idea.
That's the thing is, you have to be acutely aware of arrogance and ego and assumption with these ideas. I love the idea of doing that, by the way. Let's absolutely 100% do it. I've got my own list of business ideas, so I'll just put them in there and you can see.
Yeah, transfer them over. To be honest, I don't spend much time thinking about business ideas, but maybe after this podcast I'll start.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know you're a busy dude. They slowly start to develop, and you see a problem and you immediately start thinking of out of the box solutions, and the more you practice it, just the better you come. And I just have found there's no easy way of doing it. Like I can't really describe it. My brain just seems to slowly have got a little bit better at coming up with weird solutions to problems, and I don't know why. I've just been thinking about it a bit more. So, and I don't know if they're good solutions either. They're just solutions that I think I wouldn't have thought of a year ago. So,
yeah, I think one thing that's very interesting and maybe could be like, I think with some of the ideas that, so apparently what Hormozy, I've heard him say, is like, especially for your first business, you shouldn't be trying to reinvent the wheel, if that makes sense. Like, and maybe this is a criticism of the photo book idea. Maybe is that it's
which idea?
It's almost the photo book one.
Oh, sorry,
the
I
binder one.
Yeah,
is I wonder if it is too unique if that makes sense. Like what he says is, for your first business, you don't need a brand new business idea, and that there's like this, the idea of coming up with this revolutionary new product that's going to revolutionize some industry or some aspect of people's lives is so romanticized that people are trying to think of like super outside of the box ideas. Whereas he said it's easier to actually just enter a niche that already has people in it, essentially, and just do it way better than them, and just revolutionize think of an outside of the box solution to an industry that's already making money, if that makes sense. Like with tutoring or something, right, which is the only thing I have sort of actual business experience in. It's not, you can call it a business, you can call it not a business. I suppose it is a business. I was self-employed in that sense, and
Mate, it was 100% a business.
I was bringing in a lot more money than I've ever brought in, certainly per hour, doing anything else. And it would almost be easier to, rather than trying to come up with some funky new product, to just do the tutoring and just systematize the business better than anyone else and be the best tutorer by using out-of-the-box techniques and systemizing things in ways that have not been systemized, and just make a super successful tutoring business like that, as opposed to trying to come up with some ethereal idea, if that makes sense. And then when you've got loads of capital and loads of experience, then you can start to think about coming up with super out-of-the-box ideas. And it's not just an issue of capital, though, is it? It's also an issue of coming up with really revolutionary business ideas is super hard, and unicorns, so to speak, are incredibly rare. And there are lots of incredibly smart people who are probably smarter than us, who have years more experience than us, who have never succeeded in creating something like actually revolutionary. So you don't want to shoot for the moon too much, basically, especially with your first business. What do you think about that?
Well, there is a key distinction between incremental improvement and invention. So what Hormozi's talking about in the first instance of go into a pre-existing business area and just improve some shit, like incremental improvement. And this is literally my job at the moment, at my office job. I'm just slowly going around the product and making bits better. Like, the audio quality is really bad here, let's fix it. Even the offboarding experience sucks. Like, people are never going to come back, so let's fix that. These are all incremental improvements, and if you just do this better than your competitors, you'll just slowly have a bigger market share. And 100%, this is a good idea. If you want to, I haven't yet done this. I've actually got an idea, which I'll put in our Notion thing, of something that it's like a website. In fact, I'll just tell you here. I don't know if you've seen any of the string art I've made. You seen string art?
Yes, I haven't seen yours. I know what string art is.
Yeah, so I've made some for my girlfriend and for friends before, just for a little hobby, and it's just a nice thing to do. So you literally just hit some nails into some wood, wrap some string around, and make a I don't know, whatever you want. I think I made a logo for one of my businesses. I made a bird, like a mountain scene I've made, things like that. There's no website for it. You can just there's nowhere that sells all of the kit you need or has information about how to do it. It's just kind of there's a few maybe arts and crafts sites, and it's not a big business, right? But it's a small niche. Could be interesting. Could be a good starting point, learning point. And that would be a place where you could just do incremental improvement, no big invention. Yeah. But in the same breath, mate, it's not that exciting, and I kind of want to do exciting shit. It would be so exciting to build some cool products that save everyone time or make everyone's lives slightly better or slightly more interesting or something like that. And these ideas, if you just keep thinking about them, and you say that there are smart people trying to do this stuff, but it's very specific skills. If you practice these testing ideas skills, in 10 years' time, we could be the best people in the world at it. Well, maybe not the best, but we could be top 1% of the top 1%, like you said. And then these
high enough up the rankings to make loads of money and be successful.
Yeah, I mean, like I said to you in one of our early podcasts, one of the first ones we did, it's my journey as a kind of I don't know what you call it, like vocation, business, career, whatever, has turned from like trying to be an entrepreneur to just trying to be an inventor. And it sounds maybe a little cheesy, but inventing stuff is so exciting. Like if it works, it's fucking so cool. So, and if we start practicing this stuff when we're like early 20s, when we're like 40, we're going to be pretty decent, hopefully. And that's where you really start
Without a doubt.
making unicorns. Yeah. Otherwise, you're just, it's like Hormozy also says, like, just force luck. If you just keep doing it over and over, eventually you'll get it. So, like, you only have to be right once. So this is where if we just keep inventing shit, yeah, maybe we will hit something. I like people talk about unicorns, but you don't need a unicorn. You could have just the leg of a unicorn is chill with me. I just want it to be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
What do
the
you think
horn.
about that?
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, I wonder if, like, trying to make something that's too exciting is a problem. Do you know what I mean? Like, I understand. Like, I just wonder if taking the excitement out of it is necessary in some sense. Like, if you like, I when I say that, it reminds me of like trading or something where it's, you know, you've got to be as unemotional as possible. And I think maybe getting very excited by ideas can lead to you to get carried away, which is what you said earlier, right? It's very easy to get carried away by your ideas. So I don't really know. I think we agree. I think we're talking about the same thing. I just think, you know, I don't know. I'm very bullish on I completely agree with what you said about incremental improvement, and I don't know. I just think, like, have you heard of the book The Blue Ocean Strategy? I mentioned it in one of our early podcasts that didn't get released. Do you
I don't remember
this?
that. No.
Basically, the whole thesis of the book is like, you know, you should try and like, there's blue oceans and red oceans. Red oceans are full of blood, right? Because there's lots of competition. And it's like, rather than competing in a red ocean, i.e. entering into an industry that already has loads of successful companies and just trying to be better than them, can be a lot more hard work than just thinking of something completely new and finding your own patch of quote unquote blue ocean and making a business in some area that doesn't really exist yet, right? Carving out your own niche. That is, and that's the thesis of the book, basically.
What would you say my string art idea is? Is that a blue or red?
I think that's blue.
Because there is
like that
no
one.
string art hub right now. But if you go onto Amazon, you can buy string art supplies. Or if you go onto Etsy, there are like pre-made string art things for you. But there's no like single hub with information and kits and yeah.
If you could make some really cool string art, that would be such an obvious reel. Like, that would be such an, like, if you're on Instagram Reels or something, the amount of like videos you see of people making stuff, do you know what I mean? It would be like someone making like some incredibly cool
like,
art,
I
and it's
do
like
that.
time lapsing them.
Yeah.
You could, if you could get really good at making string art, and you could have an Insta page which is just you making really cool stuff and just time lapsing you nailing all the nails, wrapping all the string, and just making this really cool scene. People love watching that kind of, like, just switching their brains off and watching people make stuff in time lapse. And then the description could just be a link to, or
String
not
art
even
hub.
it could just be in your bio. Yeah, but it could just be like, do you want to do this? Watch my tutorials. Sign up to the newsletter and get a free tutorial, and then now you've got like a list of pre-screened people that could become clients, right?
And you see, in my head, this is not an invention. This falls on the incremental improvement side of the fence. Like, there's nothing rocket science about this. So
not at all. And I much prefer that to, like, the word invention scares me a little bit more than I think it scares you.
I just find it exciting. But yeah, we'll get into that in a second. I want to just say exciting versus passion. We'll talk about it in a minute.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I just I'm cautious about trying to, like, coming up with ideas that are truly groundbreaking, because I think they're the hardest ones to get right by like a million miles. Especially when you've not done the incremental improvement strategy first and had some success in business by just learning how to market, learning how, you know, like, leads work, making funnels, like all that stuff, like all those skills you have to be really good at for any business. And you can, if it's an incremental improvement business, so to speak, then you can practice all those things and make money and get like proof of concept, and then you can think about really trying to bite off really big chunks of the market, you know, and that's the kind of the invention side of things.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page. There's something maybe we disagree about is I think so. Imagine you have one business which is an incremental improvement type business and one business which is an invention business. They'll both have a load of skills in common that you need, like you say, marketing, sales, branding, whatever, you know, all of the bookkeeping and shit. And also product building you need for both too. And then they have completely separate skills in the sense of like, okay, one of them is we're just iterating on top of a pre-existing thing that's not complicated. And to be fair, inventions don't have to be complicated either, but then we have inventions which are probably going to be a little bit more complicated and are going to require way more user testing, especially if it's expensive. You need to be very deliberate about what you do. But yeah, I can see your point about starting with incremental improvement business just to learn the skills. It's probably a good idea. Yeah, unless you can invent something like the web app I'm building at the moment is 100% falls on the invention side of things. Like it's pretty far removed from anything I've seen in some sense. Now I think about it, maybe it isn't, but it's not very expensive. So that's why I'm like, fuck it, let's build it and test it and see what happens. So yeah, maybe I should make String Art Hub as well then.
String Art Hub, I think, is a good one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I still need to hear this bloody business idea, mate.
Anyway. So something I want to maybe talk with you about is you say you're a little bit more scared of invention than I am, the word invention, or a little bit more hesitant with it. And this is where this whole testing ideas, every idea is a bad idea, don't get attached to them, things like that comes in. Because this is what makes invention not very scary. Because you come up with... have you read Originals by Adam Grant? Do you know Adam Grant?
I don't even think I've heard of it or him, to be honest.
Okay, Adam Grant's like a researcher. I think I mentioned in one of our early podcasts too. Mate, we need to follow up on the books we recommend. He's...
we do.
Yeah, I'll buy Blue Ocean Strategy. Have a read. It looks good. Yeah, Adam Grant's a researcher. And he talks a lot about coming up with original ideas and original thinking in his book, Originals. And yeah, basically, one of the key things is just come up with loads of ideas. And 99 of them will be shit, one of them will be good. So it makes invention a lot less scary. And then as for actually proceeding to create something from one of your inventions, is literally just test the ideas. Like, you don't know shit. A board of executives don't know shit. If you find a clever way of testing the ideas and you get like good results out of it, you can then incrementally improve your invention and then you have a business. So, yeah. That's what I think about it anyway, mate.
Awesome. Yeah. I think I agree. I don't think we disagree very much here, really. I think we agree on 99%. I don't know, I just think to begin with, it makes more sense to me to leave the inventions inside of the incremental improvements, if that makes sense. Like, you're inventing new processes to solve pre-existing problems, if that makes sense. As opposed to, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we mostly agree.
Depends how you look at problems. So, for example, think about the dishwasher. That is an invention right there. And that invention, the problem was not, I have dirty dishes and like I need to clean them, because you have a solution already. The problem is it takes time to do that. So like when you start to think about problems in, you have to be very careful that you don't create the scope of problems as too small a thing. Like, there can be loads of different problems and loads of different reasons for problems. Some businesses create problems and then sell you the solution, which is quite clever. And when you do that, the possibilities for inventing things becomes pretty large. There can be loads of ideas that you can then test. And then I guess the challenge is figuring out what ideas are worthy of testing. So that's probably the scary bit. That I guess that's intuition based. So that's pretty scary.
Yeah, yeah. Also, I think something we've not really discussed yet is the realm of things that we consider when we're trying to think of business ideas. Like, I think we need to brainstorm what we actually do in our lives and issues that we have in our actual lives. Like, for example, I think in the future, if I've lived in China or worked in a Chinese company, whatever it might be, I could tell you problems that the companies have that you and I currently have no idea exist, if that makes sense. Like, another example might be when you're working at this company, right? When you're at your office job, as well as thinking about how you can improve the company itself, maybe have a think about what problems does this company have that actually, if another company came along, like a B2B business, and said, you can outsource this part of your company to us and we can solve it, like, is there room in the market for that? And that's like a business idea that I could never come up with, right? Because I'm never going to work at this company. But we need to think about, what do we actually know is a problem that exists in our lives or in the lives of the businesses that we work for.
These are the nice problems that you just come across. You're like, oh, that's a problem. This is exactly like the photo album binder one. Like, my solution's not very good, but this is a real problem. Like, for me, at least.
Yeah.
I know it's a problem because I'm the user. So
Exactly.
yeah, no, I agree. It's a great. I think that the real kind of golden nugget there is you will only be able to be original and come up with completely outside of the box solutions and ideas to real problems that actually exist if you have a wider or different variety of experience and expertise to everyone else. Like, neither of us are going to be able to invent anything about a ship. Like, we've never been on a ship. Well, we have been on ships, but we've never, like, worked on a ship and figured out, like, oh, this is a problem. Like, they need a better catering system or whatever the fuck. Like, how on earth?
Yeah.
But then you have these kind of transferable problems. Like, oh, there's a solution that I use in my office job which would work on this ship. And no one on the ship has ever done an office job, so they didn't know about it. So that's obviously quite a maybe dumbed down version, but there might be something that, a transferable skill from, like, aerospace that you learned, and then you can use it in a factory or vice versa. So
Sure.
that's probably
the ultimate niche is you.
Yeah.
Is the quote that I think of that makes me think of this.
Well, it's like Steve Jobs being a monk kind of helps, like, run a business. Like, the other people aren't monks, so it makes it harder. I think he was an actual monk, wasn't he?
I actually have no idea, I don't know maybe as much about that guy as I should.
Oh no, he was thinking about becoming a monk, but he did a lot of he was a practicing,
a spirituality guy.
Yeah. So something that I mentioned earlier.
Another example. Sorry, I was just on the same point. I was just going to say, for me, we discussed at the end of last episode, I think, the little idea that I came up with, right, that you said you might be able to help me with. Yeah. That is an example of an idea that very few people in the world would even know enough to have thought of, if that makes sense. Okay, maybe I shouldn't big it up too much, but the point is, like, I came up with that solely because of what I'm doing day to day, right, when I'm studying. And so for me, I could be thinking about problems to help students study, for example, which, selling to students might not be the best because they're like the people who notoriously have the least amount of money. But
yeah,
it's the kind of arena that, you're only going to come up with the highest quality ideas if you're in the arena itself. So we have to think about what arenas we're in and things that would make our lives better in those arenas were they to exist.
So I agree with you, but I know somebody who doesn't. I have been recruited on this ideas incubator team thing from this CEO of this other company who's heard of me through my office job. This is wild, because I've not spoken to you about this guy before. This guy called Nick. and he wants me to come up with ideas that helps his business with a bunch of people from his business. And he's purposefully picked me because I don't know anything about their customer. And he was like, "Oh, I've heard that you're like a inventor, entrepreneur kid that someone's helping, so come and help me." So he obviously thinks that he wants someone who's got absolutely no idea what's going on and completely different experience to everyone else to come in. But obviously that doesn't, there's no evidence there's going to be any positive results from that. I mean, I'll try, but hopefully it's just a good learning experience for me. But
also, and I mean, you'd have to learn about the customer avatar and the problems that they're solving.
Well, I said
on
that to
some
him,
basic level,
and he said no.
Yeah.
I said I'm going to need site visits and stuff, and he said no. I don't want you to know the customer. So it's going to be tricky for me, I think. Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I am inclined to think that's the wrong idea, but what the hell do I know? So,
mate,
try and get back to me.
Like I said, I thought it was a bad idea too. I said I should probably know something. But yeah, I will keep you posted.
That sounds awesome, by the way. That's really cool. When did this come about?
Last Wednesday. It was quite funny how I found out about it, because he said to me like, "Oh yeah, I'm making this team." And I was like, "Oh, that sounds great. Yeah, let me know about the ideas you guys come up with." And he sort of looked at me a bit puzzled. He was like, "Dude, you're going to be in the team." It's like, "Am I?" Okay. So, yeah.
Wow. And how did he find out about you exactly? Like, how did he reach out?
He is so the company I work for is a parent company, and he's the CEO of a sibling company, basically. So,
understood.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. He's a thoroughbred entrepreneur. He started many companies. So, and he's just sold this one.
That's so cool.
And just making sure that it's running properly before he leaves, basically, I think. So, yeah.
What, and wants to create some new business ideas in a company that he's selling?
Yeah.
Or is this for a different company?
No, this is for the company he's selling. Yeah.
Interesting. I would have thought you wouldn't. The last thing you'd want to do is open more channels before
Dude,
you sold.
They're
before you
paying
sell
him a fat salary, so he's been hired back as the CEO. So, yeah. Anyway, so something before I forget, because I am going to forget. Earlier on, I said passion versus excitement, and what I meant by
let's
that.
talk about that.
I am actually trying to remember what I meant by that. There's a whole thing about passion, which is like ego-driven. Like, oh, I'm coming up with a cool business idea that I'm super passionate about. And I love this idea about how dogs are very passionate and they never get anything done. Like, dogs will be like, "Oh, I want to chase a squirrel." Like, "Oh, I want to fucking lick your ankle," or whatever, and belly rubs, and "Oh, let's eat dinner." And I can just picture a dog running from one end of the house to the other and not actually doing any of the things that it set out to do. And this is like, you must not mistake the person who is careful and deliberate and really unexcited about a business idea as someone who is, like, there's a lot of business ideas that I'm not particularly passionate about, say, but they're really fucking cool ideas. Especially the one I'm working on at the moment. It's pretty much irrelevant to my life, but it's a cool idea. And I was like, why does this not exist? And it's just that slow, deliberate decision. Well, maybe not slow. This is not a good word, but the deliberate decision making and like deliberate effort, say, that really gets you to creating these cool ideas that you have come up with. So yeah, I just really want to highlight that you don't want passionate business ideas. They're probably not good.
I agree. Do you know who Scott Galloway is? I think that's his name.
I think
He's
I've
been
heard
on
of him.
a bunch of podcasts. Bald guy. He's an academic, and he had a very popular TED talk about, 9 months ago. And then after that appeared on a bunch of podcasts. And one of the things he was saying, and I think this doesn't apply directly, and there's parts of it that you might even disagree with, but I think it holds the same sentiment as what you just said. He's basically saying, wanting to be in an industry that's very glamorous. And he's talking about being an employee. He's not talking about starting a business, but I still think there's some correlation. He says that if you want to work in an industry that's very glamorous, like, it's actually quite a dangerous thing to do. Like, work as something that many people are passionate about. Like, he says, like, if you are in the top 1% of the top 1% of football players, chances are you're making a very small amount of money and you're pretty unsuccessful. But if you're in the top 1% of the top 1% of insurance brokers, you probably are making like $1 million a year or something. In other words, if you want to work in a job, like if you want to be a footballer, you better be getting plenty of signals from early on in your life that you are a prodigy, essentially, because there are so many kids who want to be footballers that you have to be so far up the food chain to make any money. And if you can do that, then obviously do it, because, you know, it's a dream life for a bunch of different people, right? Whereas if you do something that's less glamorous, that less people are passionate about, there's sufficiently less competition that you don't necessarily have to be in the top 1% of the top 1% of the top 1%. You just need to be in the top 1% to be successful, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of similar to what you're saying.
I've heard this. You told me this, I think, on another podcast. Yeah.
Did I?
No,
but essentially, like, if you're too, like, if you talking about business ideas now, if you have a business idea that you're incredibly passionate about because it's something very glamorous, essentially, you could, and you kind of run the risk of it being something that lots of other people want to do and want to achieve, if that makes sense. Whereas if you can come up with a rather boring but very sound business idea, there will be fewer people trying to work on that problem, if that makes sense. And do you agree with that? Do you see the kind of relation
I
to
follow,
what you just said?
but it's a different type of passion to what I'm thinking of. I think what you're talking about as well links into the blue ocean thing, where, like, if you want to be a football player, that is a red ocean, mate. There's so many people trying to do it. And then you have the blue ocean, which might be something like making, I don't know, screws or something. But that's probably a red ocean too. But
maybe, but probably less of a red ocean.
Well, you can really get passionate about anything that makes you money as well, I think, is what some people, I'm sure,
and that's
Birdseed Factory are passionate.
Definitely, and that was part of his argument, is that, like, people are passionate about things that as a child you would never be passionate about. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're like, I think the example he uses is he got a marble floor or something in his bathroom in his house, and the guy who owns that business is like the marble guy in London. Like, he makes like several million a year or something, and he is super passionate and knows everything there is to know about different types of marble and the pros and cons of both and blah, blah, blah. And he's super passionate about it, but it's not like something that he was like, as a kid, he was like, I'm going to be the marble guy. But if you you have your niche, and it's something that if you feel like you have authority in a certain domain, then it's hard not to become passionate about it. Because something about passion and your interests is quite often it's the things you think you're good at, if that makes sense. Like, when you're in school, you're just always 10 steps ahead of everyone else in maths, you're probably going to become passionate about maths because you see your own value in maths. Whereas if you just suck at it and you really struggle with it, people who struggle with maths usually hate maths, right? And I think that's true for a lot of things. If you can become really good at something, no matter how boring it is, I think it just becomes quite fun, to avoid becoming
when
passionate.
You're good at things.
It does.
Yeah. Well, I think we would have to have this discussion properly. We'd have to have we'd have to define passion, because I think there's like maybe 3 or 4 different types of passion that we're talking about. Like, when I said excitement versus passion, I was thinking of passion as like the puppy running around going mad. And in that sense, passion is very much like form over function. Like, they never get anything done. But if you're very passionate about getting the details right on a marble floor, that's not like a puppy. That's a completely different kind of passion. So, yeah, I think this is probably something to go away and think about and have another discussion about. I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with pretty much
I think
everything we've said, but yeah.
Yeah, I think we're talking past each other a little bit, because I think you're right. I think there are different types of passion. It's not a clearly defined word.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll come back to that another day. Let's think about it. First,
let's do that, and let's make that Notion list as well.
Yeah, we could do it after this. So, something I wanted to talk about as well was that I mentioned at the start is making a company decisive and fast. Now, you'll see in our A1 podcasts playlist. Sam and I have a playlist which is full of our favorite podcasts. We have Jeff Bezos and Alex Fridman, which was a fucking good podcast. I've listened to it probably 5 times, 6 times now. And he's got some great stuff about making a company, making a good company, to be honest, having good meetings and so forth. And he's got some advice about how to make a company move more quickly. Now, like I mentioned before, this office job I'm doing, this company, I have just through the rights of nepotism, which I'm very grateful for, I have a rite of passage straight to the CEO of the company, and I get let in on all of their big projects and what they're trying to get done. And one of the big things they're trying to get done is make the company go faster. The goal is go faster. And I've been discussing this a lot with the chief operating officer, and I do not think it is very complicated. I think it's one of those things where it's simple but difficult. Do you know what I mean? It's like a simple thing to do. Like, for example, stacking 30 pens on top of each other is simple in principle, but it's quite hard to do. But at the end of the day, it comes down to decisions made at every level need to happen more quickly. So what makes them slow? And what can make a decision slow is people not knowing or not having enough information to make the decision, or they're worried about the outcome of making the wrong decision. So if you can remedy those things and then make people say, like, look, make the decision quickly now at every level of the company. So even the people that are making, like, you have the people that make the decision of what, like, major product changes, but then you also have people making decisions about, like, I don't know, a paragraph on the website, or like a decision about how to fix a customer problem. And if you can make all of these decisions very quickly, you have a fast moving company. And I really think that the company I work for has no excuse, because Jeff says Amazon has 1.5 million employees and they're still quick. And our company is not quick, and we have less than 100 employees. So, yeah, it's really no excuse. Yeah.
And how are you going to solve that, by the way? Because you brought this up at the beginning. We never really addressed it. What do you think this company can do?
So, the whole thing of making a company move quickly is I guess the key word is decisive. Like, you want the decisions to be made more quickly. You want less talk and more action, right? If everyone is working at 100% action-based stuff, then the company's going to be moving much more quickly than if you're all talking about what you're going to do, or talking about how this decision should, debating, should it go this way or go that way. So you want to be able to make these decisions as quickly as possible, but as responsibly as possible too. Because if you're just like, we'll just go that way, and that's an irresponsible way to make decisions. Like, the company's going to go bankrupt probably if you keep making enough wrong decisions. So Jeff Bezos talks about a brilliant strategy for dealing with this exact problem, which is one-way doors and two-way doors. Have you ever heard this, like, analogy?
Assume that I haven't.
Okay. So two-way doors are doors that you can walk in and walk back out of. One-way doors, you go in, you can't come back out of. And these are types of decisions. So most decisions are two-way door decisions. So, for example, changing some text on the website. It doesn't look so good. Let's change it back. Or let's change it to this. That is a simple two-way decision. It should not take long to make the decision about what to put on the website. It should be really easy. Like, if you cock it up, it's not expensive. Unless, obviously, you do something really stupid. Like, I don't know, sell something that isn't for sale, or drop the price loads by accident or something. But imagine it's just or I don't know, say something racist on the website could be pretty bad. But if you don't do that, if it's
that's
just
probably a one-way door.
yeah. If you don't want stupid staff, that's not going to help. But if you have staff that are relatively switched on, they can make decisions about a change in a paragraph on the website, pretty quickly. That's a simple two-way door. Maybe a one-way door. This is the skill is figuring out what a one-way door decision is, because one-way door decisions are things where you have to deliberate a lot more. Is that the right word? Deliberate? I think it is. So, like, Jeff uses the example of using hydrogen in the rockets with Blue Origin for fuel, and he was like, he laughs and he's like, it would be so expensive to go back on that decision.
Sure,
And
you'd have to change the whole architecture, wouldn't you, of the engine and stuff?
yeah, and therefore it's a one-way door. So like, maybe I think another example he uses is making Prime Video. Like the decision to make Amazon Prime Video was a one-way door. So you have to be very careful about making those kinds of decisions. And I see at this company I'm working for a lot of decisions escalated that are two-way decisions. I'm like, why are you escalating? Just make the decision. If it's wrong, someone will tell you, or you'll know, like it'll get noticed and it'll get changed again. And that is quicker than escalating up to the people who are busy trying to fix one-way decisions and then bring it all the way back down to the bottom again. So, yeah. And then...
Sure, that's pretty interesting. And I think, I mean, to me, that also sounds just like there's too much like micromanagement going on at the company. Like if things are getting escalated too much, it sounds like either the employees don't have enough autonomy and like aren't given any responsibility, or it also might sound like they just don't have the confidence.
Yeah, it's the confidence
to make those decisions.
It's definitely the confidence. It's self-inflicted micromanagement. It's I don't have enough confidence to make this decision. I'm worried what happens if I get it wrong. I'm going to escalate. That this is not good. This is going to slow things down a lot. So you have people who are on big salaries making, they're getting paid hundreds of pounds an hour to make a decision that is worth pennies. It's like such a waste of time and money. Like just someone who's lower down in the company, in these really small teams, in really deep inside the company, should be making these two-way door decisions with really not much time spent on them. And then these one-way door decisions, that the other thing to make a company faster is making the one-way door decisions properly, but not take forever. Like it's like the same, the ego thing I was talking about earlier, where talking just delays action. Like the amount of talking that happens, the amount of like wasted time in meetings. And this is another thing that Amazon are known for having very unique meeting styles high up in the company. I don't know about low down, but high up in the company, where they have those 6-page memos. Have you heard of this?
Not the 6-page memos, I don't think. What's that?
Well, they basically, imagine you and I have a company that has a whole bunch of people in. Someone sets up a meeting. You expect the person who set up the meeting to come with a 6-page memo with whatever the agenda is about the meeting, described in a structured narrative, and then everyone sits there for the first half hour of the meeting and reads it. Write questions in the column. If the questions are answered later in the memo, cross them out. And then at the end of that half an hour, everyone is pre-prepared. Everyone knows what's going on. Everyone has good questions that aren't answered later in... Like, imagine you have a PowerPoint deck. People are going to be asking questions that get answered on the next slide. So it just wastes time.
Yeah.
This is like the whole idea of it. And the reason that they do the reading in the meeting is because they know that people don't do the reading before the meeting, which is kind of funny. So they just like force you to carve the time out. And it's one of these weird things where forcing everyone to do it and make the meeting half hour longer is the fastest way of doing it, but it feels slow, right? It's like, no, people should just read on the train on the way here and whatnot, but then they don't, and then it's slow and you don't make the decision and whatnot. So yeah, man, these are the things that
interesting
I am pushing on the COO of the company, and I'm going to see if she'll do it.
Have you spoken to her about it yet, or is this
no?
I'm
going to set up a meeting where I have a memo. Just to demonstrate it. I'm going to be like, get some of the high up people and be like, look, we're doing this. Read the memo, write the questions, and then we'll talk about it. So, yeah, it'll be interesting.
That is very cool, man. I hope that goes well.
Thanks. So, what do you think about making a company go faster? You got any ideas? Can you help me?
God, I mean, you're like the professor here, and you've just given like a great speech now. Like, what can you add? And I'm like,
I don't know about that. Honestly, I'm regurgitating that podcast, that Jeff Bezos podcast. So,
sure. I mean, yeah, I don't know. In the case of that company, it sounds like empowering lower level management and low down employees to be able to make decisions and have autonomy. It sounds important, and it also seems like there has to be, for two-way door decisions, like employees have to know that making the wrong decision, even though it's their responsibility, it's not necessarily going to, get them sacked or something like that, if that makes sense. Like, there has to be like a joint, like, as well as a responsibility on a personal level, it seems like there also has to be like a sense that like if you make the wrong decision on a unimportant two-way door decision, that there's not going to be some dire consequences for it, if that makes sense. Because it seems like people don't want to make decisions themselves because they don't want to be blamed for them, by the sounds of things. If it's like a confidence issue, that has to be a part of it, right? I don't know. I think company culture is like a very difficult thing.
It is.
I think a lot of companies suffer from micromanagement, which just bottlenecks everything, doesn't it, at the top?
I guess the skill is in figuring out at every level what is a one-way door decision and what is a two-way door decision. Like, how am I supposed to know, someone who's a paper pusher at the bottom of the company, if this is a one-way door or a two-way door? Like, everyone needs to be aware of the criteria that makes that exist. But then you don't want a big process in place because it slows things down. So you have to have this like cultural thing where everyone's like, oh yeah, this is clearly one way. Like, we can undo that. It won't be expensive. Like, worst case scenario, it costs us 50 quid. Like, okay, but I don't think it will, so let's do it. Yeah.
Interesting.
Difficult
yeah, man.
problem.
I'm not sure what else I can add to it, but it's all very illuminating.
Yeah, well, I will let you know what comes of it because I'm finding it super interesting, and it's a skill that I don't think many people have down. So, really it's so impressive that Amazon can have done what they have done. Whatever your opinion is of them as a company, they're 1.5 million employees and still fast, according to the CEO, is fucking impressive. Like, that's crazy. I guess
impressive, yeah.
Another problem as well is like, what is fast? How do you know if a company is fast or not? Like, how are you measuring it? Like, is it just how it feels, or is it like how much time we spend talking about things? I guess is a better measure. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, also comparing to competition, right? Probably.
Yeah, how quickly they get stuff out. Yeah. I don't know. Very difficult problem.
All right, should we wrap this fucker up?
Let's wrap this up. Next time, Porn Stars, episode 2.
Yeah, hell yeah. Dude. Let's play some chess.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited. Cool.
Yeah, man. I won't be hungover now. Well, I'm not really hungover now either, but I'll be in tip-top shape because I can't keep losing to you in chess.
Yeah, you're trying to get me. I need to prepare, otherwise you're going to demolish me.
Well, probably not. If we do time this time, I mean, the one time I've beaten you in recent memory was in a timed game, and that's the only timed game we've done.
Oh, no. Okay. So, yeah, we'll do timed. I
I'm
think
hoping,
timed would be more interesting
if we do timed,
to watch.
Yeah, it's a bit more dramatic, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you for
boss.
listening. I'll catch you later, Sam.
Yeah. Cheers, lads. All right. See you in the next one.